So I'm Reverend Karen Cleveland, and I'm also a professional animal communicator, pet psychic, dog, cat whisperer, I get called many things. So what it means is I listen to animals, and I talk to animals. And I think that's the key. A lot of people talk to animals, but sometimes we don't always listen to them. But what I've realized in my journey to becoming a minister and just in my spiritual journey, it's really almost a mirror image of my evolution of becoming a professional animal communicator and really getting the animals. So a lot of our everyday interactions are reflected in our pets. Now this doesn't mean that you have to have a pet to get something out of today's talk. These are universal truths. They apply to all life, everywhere. So don't feel left out if you don't. It's quite all right. So I'm talking today about 3 specific spiritual truths that I see a lot reflected in the clients that I talk to and the animals that I talk to, but also in people's lives and not really making the connection between what's going on in their life and what's going on with these spiritual truths. So they are, what I'm talking about today is the power of thoughts and words, the power of feelings, and the power of expectation. So first, the power of thoughts and words. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. This is pretty much the crux of animal communication, is the thoughts and the words that I exchange with the animals that I'm talking to. And these are not just my boring, mundane, everyday thoughts. This is intentional connections. So the song this morning was so beautiful, We Are All Connected. That was a beautiful song, and so right on. We are all connected, we're all in connection. We're all on the same network. You know, not just us as people, but animals, trees, plants, we're all living on the same network. And sometimes we're at slightly different levels or frequencies, but when we're intentional about communicating with each other, we can do it. And in fact, it was primary communication before our language of words was developed. You know, the dog doesn't say, hey, look at that oak tree, isn't that a great oak tree? It's just there for them. It's not an oak tree, it's not a maple tree, it's not a fir tree. You know, we're the only animal that actually puts words to objects. But anyway, so about being on the same network and about exchanging this information without using words, but using it as thoughts. Some of you are probably old enough to remember this. Back in the day, when we had telephones, but we didn't have caller ID, we didn't have special ringtones, someone might call, and you knew before you picked up the phone who it was. So I think I see a few nodding heads. So a scientist by the name of Rupert Sheldrake has put a name to this. He calls it telephone telepathy. And it just shows the connection between people. But he also talks about the connection between dogs and their owners, and he has a book out that is called, and I might get some of the words wrong, but Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. And it's fascinating. There's actually like a 12-minute video with it as well, that the dogs, they know when the owners are coming home, and it doesn't matter if the owner is at work, if they're on vacation, if they're at the grocery store. As soon as they make the decision to come home, they start their coming home behavior. So we, especially those in our house with us, or those we are connected to, even if they're not in our house, we are all in connection with each other. Okay, the pages are stuck together, sorry. So when we are thinking thoughts, are talking, are listening, are reading words, we're creating pictures in our head. And we might not even realize that we're creating pictures, but we do. So if I start talking to you about a beautiful mountain, the sun is coming up and it's shining on the peak and it's snowy and it's glistening, and it's just so beautiful how it's kind of pinkish maybe and the snow glistening off the mountain peak, you're probably getting a picture of a mountain in your head. You might not realize it, immediately, and for many of you it's probably Mount Rainier because of where we are. So we automatically create pictures in our head when we talk and listen. And this is what the animals pick up on, is the pictures. There are some really smart animals that are trained to learn words, but generally speaking, they're picking up on pictures because that's their life, is pictures and feelings. So what does this have to do with my relationship with God and the universe? What's the same thing? So, yes, words are great. We put words out there, what we want, but it's really about the pictures that we're holding in our heads. What is the picture we're creating for what we want to create? Let me use an example of a dog. Let's say, for those of you that have dogs or anything that wants to be walked, you're sitting on a couch, you're just flipping through a magazine, you're just not really doing anything, it's kind of quiet, and all of a sudden you get an idea, hey, it's a great time to take the dog for a walk. So you start kind of thinking in your head, well, I gotta get my shoes on, I gotta get the keys, I might have to get my raincoat, gotta get the leash, all that kind of stuff. Before you even get up, you start kind of going through your head what has to happen, and maybe the route you might take. And you look over at your dog, and his ears are already perked up. He already knows what's going on before you even stand up and get your tennis shoes on. So they pick up on things before we know it. So what pictures are you creating? What is in your head for the universe, for God and Spirit to pick up on, to present to you? So the words, the thoughts that we have are instrumental in creating those pictures and what we truly want. But it's also equally important when we're using words, we're using thoughts, that we say what we want and not what we don't want. Because we can't negate a picture. We can't make a picture negative. So I can't say, don't think of the mountain. Because if any picture is going to come to your mind, it's going to be a mountain. You can't have a mountain with a circle with a line through it, right? Once it's there, it's there. Once you say the object, it's there. So specifically, for example, with the animals, and this happens with my clients a lot, the cat's always getting on the table, and they don't want the cat on the table. Well, you can't say, don't get on the table, because the picture, the image the cat is picking up is being on the table, right? So the cat wants to make you happy. The animal, so believe it or not, animals really do want to make us happy. They're not trying to be brats. It might seem like they're trying to be brats some of the time, but generally they're not. They're trying to make us happy because they want a good life too. So, so you can't say don't get on the table. You say stay on the floor, stay on the chair, leave the table empty, clean table, empty table. You got to say what you want. So again, what are you telling God what you want? Are you telling God what you want, or are you focusing on, I don't want debt, I don't want a phone call from that person, I don't want to be sick. And you know what? And I fall into this a lot. Even though I know it from all ends. I know it from the God side, I know it from the animal side. Don't get sick, don't get sick. I can't get sick because I'm talking this weekend, and what do? I get sick. So, I mean, it happens to all of us. We just have to pay attention to it and be aware of it. So, that's one of the first points I want to make, the power of our words, because it's creating the pictures in our head. And what are we putting out there? The power of feelings. So many teachers in the New Thought movement say a thought plus a feeling equals a result. Has anyone heard that before, or something similar to that? So, and it's true with the animals. So if the cat's on the table and you're yelling, don't get on the table, well, all that energy is going into get on the table, even though you're saying don't, but get on the table. So the feelings just really drive the message deeper. And so when you're praying, when you're talking, when you're doing affirmations, visualizing, doing your vision board, whatever it is, what's your feeling behind it? If you're doing an affirmation and you're just completely flatlined and boring and my life is good, my life is good, my life is good. You know, I don't know what you're going to get with that. So you got to have a little bit of feeling behind it, and it just like with the animals. So if you're yelling at them, don't bark. And I know that happens a lot. Stop barking, don't bark. It just really drives it in deeper to them. So you got to start yelling, you know, be quiet instead, or you know, make sure you picture a closed mouth, because that's what they need is the picture of what you want. So quiet or silence or something, but with that same emotion. And to be honest, the emotion doesn't really matter if it's good, bad, happy, sad, angry, thankful, loving or not. Sometimes a less than positive emotion also helps drive the meaning that we want into what we're looking for. So, so be aware of what your feelings and emotions are behind your thoughts, your words, because those are equally or maybe even more important sometimes. So when I was saying, you know, my life is good, I can't even say it without smiling, but my life is good, my life is good. Even if you just smile though sometimes, if nothing else, when you're trying to bring forth a result of some kind of creation in your life, just try smiling if nothing else, because smiling helps make it a little bit better. It helps get you where you're going. Okay, and the power of expectation. So what are you expecting to happen? Because sometimes we think we're expecting something because it's what we want, but we're actually expecting something else. So let's take the cat on the table, for example. I will walk a client through, okay, let's walk around the house, and we're about to come through the door to the kitchen, and before you can see the table, what are you thinking? What are you expecting? And to be honest, they usually deny that they're expecting to see the cat on the table because that's not what they want. But I know, because the cat tells me this is what we do, this is what she wants, that's what the true expectation is. So what are you expecting? And like I said, you need to be careful of, we know what we want usually, but what are we truly expecting God to bring us? Life to bring us, spirit to bring us. So if, you know, anything that I want to, if I could like wrap up, summarize some of these ideas from the power of thoughts and words and feelings and expectations, is that we are participating in this co-creation, and that if we aren't aware of what we're doing, we might be making a fine, perfect, noble effort to get what we want. But sometimes we need to stop and think a little more clearly about what is it that is truly coming out for me? And what is it that, if someone else was reading the information from me, what would they pick up on?